Right now, the day's biggest news stories from a Vegas perspective. This is the Vegas Take with Sharp and Shapiro.
All right, welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, hour number 2. He's J.D. Sharp. I'm Brian Shapiro. We got Chris Wynn in studio as well. Will you be caucusing in Iowa? Well, we're going to preview that for you. You know, caucusing. It sounds like a behavior or something you would have done at the AVN Porn Expo. I don't know. But will you be caucusing tonight? I don't know. It sounds like a dirty thing to do. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. But anyway, we'll get to that. I want to start with Donald Trump, of course, because Donald Trump went off on Mike Bloomberg. As you know, Mike Bloomberg, another billionaire. Well, I shouldn't say another because we don't think Donald Trump is a billionaire. At least I don't. But Bloomberg is a billionaire. And Trump decided to just go off on him and attack him on television yesterday. Have a listen to this.
Very little. I just think of little. You know, now he wants a box for the debates to stand on. Okay, it's okay. There's nothing wrong. You could be short. Why should he get a box to stand on, okay? He wants a box for the debates. Why should he be entitled to that? Really? Then does that mean everyone else gets a box?
I guess if they want one, I will have to negotiate
well, the other thing,
boxes.
It's very interesting. Cory Booker and all these people couldn't get any of the things that Bloomberg's getting now. I think it's very unfair for the Democrats, but I would love to run against Bloomberg.
By the way, for the record, Donald Trump, last I heard, spent $120,000 for a box. Okay, I'll leave that one alone. That was a horrible joke.
That was the worst joke.
But anyway,
that was so
Bloomberg,
bad.
Michael Bloomberg's advisor, Tim O'Brien, responded to Trump. This is absolutely hilarious. Listen to this again. This is Michael Bloomberg's advisor, Tim O'Brien, responding on television. Have a listen to this.
He's making fun of Mike's height because Mike stands on a stack of accomplishments that makes him about 10 feet taller than Donald Trump, and he's scared of him. Mike Bloomberg is everything Donald Trump says he is and isn't. And the fact that he's constantly talking, you know, I've been asked a lot lately because Trump has been coming after Mike so much. You know, what's it like to be in Donald Trump's head so much? And what I've said to people is when you get inside Donald Trump's head, all you're going to discover that you find there is a putter, a cheeseburger, a porn video, and somebody else's credit card.
Oh, that was great. That's a great
That
comeback.
guy should be a writer for a stand-up comic when he goes out on the road, right? I mean, that is good stuff.
I like the credit card and the porn in there. I think he's right about that, by the way. I would agree with him. But, you know, this is just another page from Donald Trump's playbook where he goes after candidates that don't, you know, that he sees as a threat. This is exactly what he did.
I think he goes after candidates that he wants to be isolated against. I think that he avoids candidates that he sees as a threat. Did you ever see has he ever said anything negative about Pete Buttigieg or Kamala Harris?
Yes, he has said negative things about Kamala Harris. He has.
Are you sure?
Not that I can recall with Pete Buttigieg, but yes, with Kamala Harris, he has said
I think that Donald Trump avoids those that he actually believes are a threat, and he isolates those that he wants to respond to him.
I disagree. I mean, that's why he brought up the Bidens. He brought up the Bidens because he assumed, and he's probably right, that Biden will be the guy that he'll be facing against. By the way, you're wrong about Pete Buttigieg. He has made fun of Pete's height also. So you're wrong. The guy makes fun of anybody that even could be a minor threat to him. If you don't believe me, you can look that up. He's gone after Pete Buttigieg. He goes after everybody. He went after Rubio's height because he is the most insecure man on the planet. I know a few others that are pretty insecure that live here in Las Vegas. I won't mention those. But there are Donald Trump, by far, he's the most insecure guy I've ever seen in my life. I mean, he really is. He'll go after someone based on looks, including women. Not that long ago, he went after Nancy Pelosi's teeth. He went after Ted Cruz's wife. You know, I mean, he goes after men and women based on looks and appearance. And the only explanation you could have there is that the man is insecure in his own skin, that you go after somebody else's looks. I mean, I would never attack Donald Trump based on the fact that he's obese. I would never attack Donald Trump based on the fact that he's orange. I would never go after Donald Trump based on the fact, you know, of his looks. And I'm sure Melania Trump married Donald Trump because he's such a handsome man. I mean, I give her all the credit in the world because let's be honest, Donald Trump is a supermodel in his own right. He's an extremely good-looking guy, very, very mature. Donald Trump's extremely intelligent, certainly has very thick skin. He just seems like a great guy, you know. I mean, you know, he would have served this country honorably if not for those bone spurs. I mean, you have to give Donald Trump credit. He's really a great guy.
Show me one 72-year-old man who was a supermodel, who was in really, really good shape, who isn't a little bit overweight, Brian.
George Hamilton,
let's
pretty
take,
good looking
let's
guy.
take a look at Donald Trump at 39 years old and Brian Shapiro at 39 years old, and let's have that conversation.
Well, he had more money than me, but I will also say that
I'm saying from a pure aesthetic standpoint. Because right now, because you're making fun of him, okay, I get it. He's 72. He's a senior citizen. He's borderline geriatric. But let's have the conversation. When you guys are the exact same age, right next to each other, who was more attractive?
Well, I think it's a little easier to look good when you're a billionaire, number one. And number two, I will also go as far as to say you said a little overweight. According to doctors, he is obese. So let's be factually accurate there. He is obese.
No, I mean, he's definitely overweight.
He's disgusting.
I'm not. He's also 72. There's not a lot of guys that are in really, really good shape.
Why
at
is
72
his skin
years old.
orange? Does everyone old have orange skin?
Because he clearly tans. He spray tans, obviously.
He spray tans.
Yes, and he may have and he may have a hairpiece.
That's possible.
Absolutely, yeah.
What was funny, though, is Brian wasn't necessarily criticizing the president. He was going on a sarcasm roll.
I
that was pretty impressive.
I realized.
Yeah, I mean, that was, Brian, I have to say, that was something right there.
I had to flip the script on
line
it a
of,
little bit.
So anyway.
Monday morning sarcasm.
It would be different if Donald Trump was 45 or 48 years old, like when he ran for the president for the first time back in the 80s. But he's 72 years old.
Well,
I'm not going to make fun of a 72-year-old guy or a girl for their appearance because, again, their bodies have deteriorated.
Then why don't you take
about 30 or 40%?
Why don't you give the man who you support that advice?
Just by
then
default.
Why don't you give that advice to the man who you support, who does that on a daily basis and goes after people's looks, both men and women? It's disgusting. He went after Nancy Pelosi's teeth. He goes after Ted Cruz's wife. He goes after people's appearance and looks on a daily basis. So give him the same advice that you're giving somebody, like me, if I go after Donald Trump. Let's talk.
And get him on the line.
But Brian, let's wrap this up in a bow. This segment, okay?
I'd love that advice.
Let's wrap this up in a
get that
bow.
obese man on the line. I would love to.
The whole point of this, though, is once again we're talking about the president of the United States not being accurate and telling a falsehood.
Of course,
Michael Bloomberg never said that he wanted a box to stand on for the debates. You ran, of course, the audio from one of his advisors. Michael Bloomberg himself over the weekend actually made a comment and talked about the president of the United States being a pathological liar and that he never made a request to have any type of box whatsoever. So once again, we're talking about the president not being truthful.
Hey,
okay,
by the way,
and that's what this is all about.
When I saw Bloomberg's face, I always thought Bloomberg was like 6'2" or 6'3". I really did.
I didn't know. I wasn't aware of his height.
He is not a very tall guy. I really had no idea until I actually looked it up.
I don't want to spend more than 5 minutes talking about Donald Trump's look. The man is disgusting inside and out, and we could just leave it at that.
He's also 72.
So Bernie Sanders, he's always been disgusting his whole life. Bernie Sanders, by the way, is surging with this caucus, and a lot of people on the Democratic side that think that Joe Biden has the best chance to beat Trump are worried a little bit. I mean, I heard
he's surging in Iowa.
Yeah, I heard the same stuff happen. I remember when Hillary was running against Sanders. A lot of people worried about Sanders. Look, we don't know what's going to happen there. I still think Joe Biden's going to be the candidate, but here's something interesting I want to bring up with you guys. So as Joe Biden is competing in Iowa right now, there's at least one GOP senator that's already talking about impeaching Joe Biden. The name is Joni Ernst. She's a Republican in Iowa. She told the Bloomberg News yesterday that Republicans could impeach Biden for his dealings in the Ukraine, specifically his handling of foreign policy with the country as his son. So here's my thoughts on this, and I've been pretty clear on that. Republicans, the ones that voted to not have witnesses in this impeachment trial, have zero credibility because a trial is about witnesses, it's about testimony, it's about documents, you name it. So anybody that wants to talk about Biden now, any of these Republicans that voted no on witnesses have absolutely zero credibility. It is a sham. And if you want to tell me that the Democrats didn't prove their case, then why don't we talk about the Republicans that voted no on witnesses like the Rubios and the Alexanders of the world that said the Democrats did prove their case and that the president did withhold aid for personal gain and that there was evidence of that, yet they still voted to not have witnesses testify because they are cowards. This is about the truth. Nobody is above the law. And if you want to talk about the Constitution and executive privilege, what about doing the right thing and finding out the truth? It's not a trial unless you have all the evidence and witnesses put forth. Monica Lewinsky had to testify. Why won't, somebody like Bolton testify, who also is a moron, by the way? Republicans have adored John Bolton for years. This is a guy who cares more about selling books and making money than doing the right thing for the American people. Another coward, just like all those Republicans that voted for no witnesses. There is no excuse for it. And now Joni Ernst wants to talk now. about trying to impeach Joe Biden. It is disgusting and it is a sad joke. Americans deserve to know the truth. And if the truth showed that it would exonerate the president, so be it. But there are already Republicans in the Senate that are admitting that the Democrats did their job in proving their case and that they did prove their case. The fact that Alexander is retiring, and this is what we're going to remember him by, make no mistake about it, a coward. Okay, an absolute coward. And Mitt Romney, who actually showed some guts. Mitt Romney, who did the right thing, who voted for witnesses because he wants to know the truth. He believes that Americans deserve to know the truth. And now CPAC is saying that Mitt Romney is not invited after the Senate impeachment vote. It is a sad joke. It's all about politics. It's all partisan politics as usual. This isn't about doing the right thing. Anybody with a brain that is not completely biased will admit that what the president did was extremely wrong, could be criminal, and the fact that we didn't get those witnesses to testify, the fact we didn't get those text messages, and we didn't get all the information needed, and I say we, the American people, we deserve to know the truth. And don't you give me this crap and don't you give me this excuse, because that's what it is. Oh, the Democrats had their chance. They tried to get Bolton to testify. He didn't show up, and then his attorneys threatened to sue them. So don't you give me that crap. The Democrats had their opportunity. That's a right-wing talking point. They did call Bolton, and he refused. And then a few weeks later, all of a sudden, these excerpts come out in his book because he wants to sell books, and he cares more about selling books than doing the right thing for the American people. So don't you give me that garbage, because it's crap. The fact that they're not letting Mitt Romney speak now is a sad joke. It's disgusting. Partisan hacks on the right. If you don't think the president committed a crime, fine, so be it. There are people like Rubio and Alexander, they think the president did commit a crime. Or at least I shouldn't say that, but they do believe that the president had wrongdoing in that phone call. It was not a perfect phone call. There's not one person in the Senate that believes it was a perfect phone call. Whether it rose to the level of impeachment or not, let the witnesses testify. Let all the evidence come forward. Otherwise, guess what? It's not a trial. It's not a trial. I'm just sick of it. You know, we got off the air on Friday, and then we heard about Alexander, the vote with Alexander. Yeah. It was a joke. It's a sad joke. We'll open up the phone line, 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Your thoughts on this, the fact that CPAC is saying Mitt Romney is not invited anymore. They're already talking about, some Republicans are already talking about Joe Biden impeaching him if he wins. And then, of course, we have the Iowa caucus coming up. So we're taking your phone calls on that. Again, that number to call is 702-257-5396. If you want to be a part of the program, it is 257-5396.
And Brian, you mentioned Lamar Alexander. He, along with some other Republican lawmakers, have come out and used words as far as that phone call like inappropriate, like it was wrong. But it doesn't rise to the impeachment level. It doesn't rise to a level where we should take the president of the United States out of office, which is, you know, but you're making comments as far as like lawmakers saying that, and then you're going to vote not to even hear witnesses in the Senate portion of the trial. It is absolutely inexcusable, in my opinion. There's no reason whatsoever that you would not want to hear from the likes of people, even like Mick Mulvaney, as well as John Bolton, especially when John Bolton is clearly has intent to testify. Okay, the American people, over 70% of the American people across the board, whether you're Republicans, Democrats, Trump supporters, not Trump supporters, never Trumpers, said that they wanted to hear witnesses in the Senate portion of the trial, and now we are not going to have that. It is absolutely a cover-up, and they are culpable as far as the Republicans who voted no. Well, it's 100% true, JD. I don't know.
A cover-up?
Yeah, it's a cover-up from a standpoint of it's not a real trial. It wasn't. Okay. It's not going to be a real trial because you're not going to hear from very relevant witnesses.
Chris, honest to God, if the Democrats had a viable candidate, and I've asked probably 5 people this question, but if they had a viable candidate, would Donald Trump be impeached at this point?
Well, no, yes, he absolutely would, because Donald Trump is getting impeached because he did impeachable things. It has nothing to do with Democrats. It has nothing to do with Joe Biden. It has nothing to do with Hunter Biden. By the way, Brian just went on that diatribe, right? I need to point out a very important fact here for those people who are saying that Joe Biden needs to be impeached or that Hunter Biden needs to be charged with something.
That's insane.
Both Hunter Biden and Joe Biden were cleared. There was an investigation, and there was no wrongdoing found. Is there nepotism around the world? Absolutely.
There was a very minor
you're going to say, JD, you said it a million times.
House Democrats
it was a small investigation.
It was a very minor investigation.
There was an investigation. They've been cleared of any wrongdoing.
And Joe Biden definitely went on TV and said, if this person is if this Ukrainian prosecutor,
and we've gone over the details as to why he did that, and we've talked about it 5, 6, 7, 10 times on the show.
$1 billion, which is 2.5 times more than what Donald Trump supposedly was thinking of withholding, but he actually ended up giving them.
It's not. The fact pattern is absolutely different with respect to Donald Trump and Joe Biden.
Donald Trump, since day one, has always made sure that the money that is being given to foreign countries is being given properly. Because
he doesn't decide it. It was Congress-appointed funds, JD.
Because he is America first.
Decide.
He is America first, and he does not like to give aid to countries if he feels like like another country should be giving more aid, or if we're doing something for them. Because it's all about business with him. It's all about reciprocity. It's all about making a deal that works for both sides. And in that conversation, and this is never discussed, but he talked to Zelensky and he said, "What about Germany? Germany isn't putting up this money. Why do we have to put up this money?" Because Donald Trump, again, wanted to make sure that the money was going to the right places. And let's be honest, he did not even need to look into Joe Biden. And if witnesses were called, it would have taken probably 2 or 3 more months to get this thing done. We're talking probably $250 million in taxpayer money. And Hunter Biden would have gone up there on the stand and made a complete fool of himself because he can't plead the Fifth.
All right, let me just
first of all, it's Congress-appointed funds. You're talking about the president making a decision and saying, "Oh, why do we have to give them the?" It's not the president's decision. He doesn't have the leeway to do that. You cannot have a quid pro quo where you're holding something over a country's head that's already been allocated by Congress. I don't understand. You're making the comparison that's not a comparison with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. It's completely two different things.
Did they get the funding?
Absolutely, they got it.
Okay.
After Donald Trump was under the impression that they were going to do a favor for him.
First of all,
yes.
all right, let me just respond and say, just because they got the funding,
that's irrelevant.
Okay, hold on. Just because they got the funding doesn't mean that the president didn't commit a crime, which would have been possibly, it appears, withholding funds for political gain. What do you think out there? We're taking your phone calls right now, 702-257-5396. Again, that number to call if you want to be a part of the conversation, 257-5396. Let's start off with Elle. Elle, you're first up on the Vegas take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Elle? Been a while.
Good morning, gentlemen. Chris and Brian, thanks for the therapy in the mornings. We really need this right now. But my thing is this. Let's just say they voted for the witnesses. This would have been torture until the whole thing, they made up their minds. They had the numbers. They were never going to convict. So this would have been a couple of months of torture only to have them vote in. So let's just consider ourselves lucky that they
I totally agree.
voted down. But let the voters decide. I think we're going to see. We're going to like the decision.
Well, I mean,
justice is not getting done, so we're lucky because of that? I don't really understand that rationale.
Do you realize what would have had to happen for Donald Trump to be impeached? 20 senators would have had
been
to
able
turn
to hear
over.
John Bolton and Mick Mulvaney talk about what the president did wrong.
And it wouldn't have just been Bolton and Mulvaney. They would have gone on and on and on and on both sides. This would have lasted a long, long time. And,
Disagree.
And
Here's
it's about getting to the truth,
the public, which is already very tired of it, would have been even more tired of it.
Hold on.
I don't believe you could rubber stamp everything this president's doing. I don't know how you do it, but one person told me, I'll tell you what it's about. And he said when Trump got the tax cuts, I had $3,000 instantly in my paycheck to say, I think he's a racist, but I had $3,000. So JD probably has profited from this. So good luck to you, but we'll see when the voters vote.
Elle, we appreciate the phone call.
Let me
just correct one thing that you said. Okay, Adam Schiff on Friday was trying to strike a deal with the Republicans. Said we'll put a week cap on this. We will call the witnesses we want. You call the witnesses you want. He was putting a weak cap on this. So this was not going to be drawn out. He was trying to put, because that's what Republicans, the excuse they were making, this is going to be drawn out for months. He said it on Friday. He wanted to put a weak cap on this.
Why would they not think that? Adam Schiff's testimony lasted 24 hours, and Trump's attorneys lasted 2 hours.
All right, well, let's see what you think out there. 702-257-5396. Go to Joel. Joel, you're next up on the Vegas take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Joel?
Thanks very much for taking my call.
Sure.
First of all, I want to apologize to JD for calling him an idiot the other day.
Hey,
there's no need. No need.
It's all right, Joel. You got passionate. You have an opinion. You're entitled to your opinion. I appreciate you calling in.
No need to apologize.
Okay, but now let's get to the specifics.
Sure.
First of all, Trump didn't release the funding until after he got caught with that phone call, number one. Number two, if the Senate Republicans wanted to call either Biden to come in and testify, they have the votes to do it. They decided not to do it. So that's a bogus argument with regard to Hunter Biden or Joe Biden and pushback by the Democrats because the Republicans have the majority. They could have done it.
Right.
The Republicans also, throughout the entire House proceedings, were complaining that the administration did not get the right to defend themselves, to call witnesses. Now, suddenly, when the witnesses that were being considered to be called by Democrats could have been damaging to Trump, they changed their tune.
No, there's that. Listen, Joel, I agree with you. There's absolutely no question that there's one reason and one reason only why Republicans are blocking all this evidence from putting forward. It has nothing to do with the Constitution. It's not legal ramifications, and it has everything to do with the fact that it would make Donald Trump and his administration look bad, and it would show guilt. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to John. John, you're next up. What's going on?
Oh, I just want to say, how come the House of Representatives did not call John Bolton when they had the chance? Why do they have to wait until they go to the Senate?
Well, that's not factually accurate. They actually did call him. And
we've gone over this like 16 times.
They did call him. He ignored.
They did.
Okay, so John, he ignored the request. Bolton did. And then you know what happened when they put in another request? Bolton's attorneys threatened to sue the Democrats. That's what happened. And then all of a sudden, a week later, how convenient, Bolton has a book out, and he says, hey, you know what? If they subpoena me, I'll come in and testify because it's about money, and he knows that the truth is going to come out in his book, and it's going to make him look bad if he said he's not going to testify. John, those are just the facts, my friend.
All right, that's what I wanted to know.
All right, no problem, John. We're here.
Yeah, good call, John.
John, let me tell you something, man. We're here to help you. I'm here to help all of you Republicans out there.
C-Win and Brian Shapiro therapy.
I'm here.
That's
listen,
great stuff.
all of you people.
Acquittal therapy. Impeachment acquittal therapy with C-Win and Brian Shapiro.
All of you people that are wearing the Donald Trump knee pads, I am here to help you take those knee pads off.
Oh, wow.
702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Jeff. Jeff, you're next up on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Jeff?
Hey, how you doing? I'm just calling because in the bipartisans that we're seeing, within this whole investigation and impeachment, we also hear that same bipartisan from the commentators, you guys, and you're all bright, and I love hearing it, but we can't seem to want to find the one thing, which is the truth on both sides.
You don't think I want the truth, Jeff? What have I ever said on this show?
I'm not sure that Brian can handle the truth.
What have I ever said on this show, Jeff?
Colonel Jessup.
Guys, what have I ever said on this show, Jeff, that would lead you to believe I don't want the truth?
That the Bidens did a crime.
The Bidens didn't do a crime. There was an investigation that found they didn't.
They've done a crime. He actually
okay, so because you say it's true, then is what you're trying to.
Okay, so Jeff, let's talk about the the truth for a second.
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
The Bidens were investigated. Here's what I think. Here's what I believe took place. Hold on. Here's what I think took place. I believe it is without question that Hunter Biden got this job because of who his father is. Here's the difference, Jeff, between what the Bidens did and what Trump did. Withholding aid for political gain is a crime. Getting a job because your father's the vice president is not a crime. Do you understand that?
No, because I was a cop and I was a detective. I'm just gonna make a point.
You got 30 seconds, and then I'm up against a break, sir.
You got it. Here's my point. My point is, you know what? You said he was investigated. He was cleared. O.J. was investigated, and he was cleared.
He was found guilty, he was found guilty.
I like that.
O.J. Simpson was. Excuse me. O.J. Simpson was found liable of those two deaths.
No. I'm saying in the court of law.
In the criminal court, he's talking about, but the civil court, he was found liable.
Hey,
okay, I appreciate the call. So basically what Jeff is saying is he thinks there's just as much evidence to prosecute the Bidens as there was in the O.J. Simpson murder trial. We got to take a break. We got to take a break. We'll take a quick break. More of your calls, 702-257-5396. Take a quick break. Be back right after this. Oh, yeah. Welcome back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Man, are we separated as a nation. Speaking of being separated on the right and on the left, divided on so many different issues. I don't think the President of the United States, or as I like to call him, the divider-in-chief, is helping that situation anyway. In any way, shape, or form, I believe Americans deserve to know the truth in this trial. It's not going to happen. We're not going to hear from witnesses. We're not going to see the text messages and vital documents. And, oh, yeah, now we're learning that the White House had emails dating back to June in regards to aid between Zelensky and Donald Trump. But guess what? The White House is not providing those emails. They're just saying that they exist. Now that they know that the president's going to get off, they're saying, yeah, these emails exist, but they're blocking any of the information in those emails. For all we know, there could be a quid pro quo in writing from the president of the United States dating all the way back to June. But the White House won't release that information. The White House won't let you know what really happened because the White House does not want you, the American people, to know the truth. And all these people on the right should be ashamed of themselves for the way they voted. A shameful thing that we are learning right now in our society. And, listen, politicians on the left and the right, and I'm not saying that the left would do whatever they could to protect the president, but guess what? Monica Lewinsky testified back in the day, okay? We deserve to know what happened. Witnesses should be testifying. There is absolutely no valid excuse that anybody on the right can make. Okay, and Alan Dershowitz, or as I like to call him, Alan Douchewitz, who made his argument last week, who said, well, if the president believes it's in the best interest of the country for him to win in 2020, then basically he can do whatever he wants.
Which is hilarious on its face. It's hilarious on its face.
Speaking of O.J. Simpson, a guy who's defended some of the biggest scumbags in the world, Alan Douchewitz himself. 702-257-5396 is the number to call if you want to be a part of the program. Again, 257-5396. Before we get back to our calls, I just want to mention, we talk about these fatalities on the roadways in Las Vegas all the time. Sadly, I wish I didn't have to report any of them. But you want to stay away from the area of South Rainbow Boulevard and Eldora Avenue. I guess that's close to Rainbow and Sahara.
And it's right by Desert Inn, by the way, also.
Yeah, so we're learning South Rainbow's closed, traffic being diverted based on, don't know how many people have died, but there's at least one fatality. We hope there's not more. But, again, another situation where maybe somebody's driving, recklessly or drunk or who knows. But anyway, stay away from that area. Tragic. And we will continue to monitor that situation. Again, as I mentioned, taking your phone calls at 702-257-5396. Caucus in Iowa, we're previewing that. We're talking about Joe Biden and how there are already some GOP senators that are talking about impeaching him, which is beyond unbelievably ridiculous. Bernie Sanders is now surging. This Iowa, a lot of Democrats are very I guess you could say scared of that. And John Kerry now deleted expletive-laced tweet addressing a report he was overheard planning a 2020 run. It's kind of crazy. This story is kind of nuts as well.
Well, you know why the Democrats are scared of Bernie Sanders, right?
Why is that?
Because he's not a Democrat.
Well,
because he is basically a socialist. And I made this statement last week. I said the Democratic Party is going to end, in my opinion, in 2020. Mm-hmm. If Bernie Sanders wins the nomination, socialism will be the party moving forward. I think you've got AOC in 24 or 2024, and the list goes on and on. I think that the Democrats are terrified of Bernie Sanders because he really isn't a Democrat. He's actually a socialist.
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't necessarily I'd characterize it as they're terrified because I think if Bernie Sanders ends up being the nominee, it's going to be one of those things where everyone's going to galvanize behind whoever that nominee is. And if Bernie Sanders happens to be the guy, that's fine. I get what you're saying as far as him being a Democratic socialist, but we all know what's going to happen. If, for example, just to say hypothetically, Bernie Sanders ends up being president of the United States, it's not like Bernie Sanders is going to be able to implement all these socialistic policies. We all know how Washington, D.C. works,
well, let me be
and
clear.
There's roadblocks up all over the place. He's not going to be able to just roll out some type of situation where we're going to be Sweden or Venezuela. It's just not going to happen.
Let me be clear. The reason why I'm not supporting Bernie Sanders because he wants $15 an hour minimum wage and he thinks college should be free for all. Completely and utterly ridiculous.
Well, I disagree with no. It's not utterly ridiculous. I disagree with you on that.
College should be free for all.
No, I think $15 an hour is something that's absolutely viable in a lot of parts of this country, Brian.
Okay,
I absolutely disagree with you on that.
First of all, he's not talking about parts.
He's talking
hold on.
universal.
He's talking universally. Number one.
Well,
hold on. Let me make my point.
Okay.
Number two. This is why I disagree with it. I'm not comfortable with a 16-year-old working at McDonald's making $15 an hour. However, I am comfortable with somebody who maybe is 19, 20, 21, a little bit older that is trying to support a family. Here's the problem with this. If you require $15 an hour minimum wage for some of these small businesses that are making ends meet and trying to get now listen, I'm not talking about Walmart, Target, and some of the biggest companies in the world. I'd be okay with that because they make billions of dollars. I'm talking about the small business that is struggling to make ends meet to get by. I think that would hurt small business.
That's the whole point. It destroys capitalism.
Okay.
The small business would be destroyed and the major corporations would basically be what happened.
Anyway,
the
I think you guys are
have a piece of the
simplifying
major
this way
corporations.
too much.
We're definitely not.
It's a very complicated thing.
Especially when you think about the automation era and how a lot of restaurants and trucking companies are replacing human beings with robots. And if you're required to pay $15 an hour to a human being, that would happen on a much larger scale.
All right, let's take some phone calls on this, 702-257-5396. Iowa caucus is coming up. What are your thoughts on that? The fact that Mitt Romney is now not invited to CPAC because he voted to get witnesses. He actually did the right thing. It's why I respect Mitt Romney. Number to call, 702-257-5396. What do you think about no witnesses being called? What do you think about Representative Alexander and, a few others as well, including Rubio, that said, listen, the Democrats proved their case, but I'm not going to vote for witnesses. It's absolutely absurd. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Brady. Brady, what's going on?
What's up, Brady?
Yeah, good morning, gentlemen. Hey, one thing is, the President of the United States, as you can see after going through all these trials, has the right to look into corruption that was in Ukraine and Hunter Biden. And Victor Shokin, the guy that was fired by Joe Biden, says, listen, man, if you don't get this guy fired, you ain't getting $1 million or the $1 billion. And son of a bitch, the guy was fired. That's Victor.
Okay,
Shokin.
so let's hold on, Brady. Okay, Brady, let's talk about those things that you just brought up. Let me ask you a question. Since you just talked about caring about corruption, because I'm sure the president, all of a sudden he cares about corruption in the Ukraine. Why not go through the proper channels? Why not go through the DOJ?
The State Department.
Hold on.
Why not? You trust the DOJ, just like JD
So hold on a
I
second.
wouldn't trust the FBI or DOJ.
Wrong. So why does he?
Clearly he does.
So why does he trust them when it's convenient for him? Then please explain.
I'd rather trust Rudy Giuliani.
Answer my question.
Lev Parnas and the boys.
Brandon Obama,
So
makes sense.
Biden,
all right. So let me get this right. Let me get this straight. I just want to make sure.
He expected a lot of leaks.
Let me
It's
just
his personal
That-
attorney.
Brady,
that's why he wanted his personal attorneys,
You
and I
can't
don't
do that.
Okay,
though.
and I
You
don't
got to go
blame
to
him
proper
for that.
channels.
He
Okay,
has
there's
the
three
right
people
to
talking
use
at the same
his
time.
personal attorney.
Brady, let me be very clear here because I want to make sure I understand your position. Your position is if the president thinks there's corruption anywhere in the world, he should hire a personal attorney and Lev Parnas and not go through the proper channels like the DOJ. Is that your position, Brady?
Exactly. Why would you trust the
Oh my God, this guy is just
Brennan?
unbelievable.
They're idiots.
All right, let me ask you another question.
Well, no, let's define.
Or maybe not. Go ahead, JD.
Let's define proper channels here, Brian.
Proper channels is the DOJ.
It's not Rudy
I get
Giuliani
that.
and Lev
I
Parnas.
get that.
I just defined it.
What does that mean, though?
It means that
Is he required to do that?
what it means is
No,
when
but is he absolutely required to do that? Is he breaking the law? Is he committing a crime if he's not doing that?
Okay,
Because if
do you
he's
want me to
not,
answer?
and considering what happened,
I will answer.
and how he was attacked by the FBI and the DOJ, I don't blame him for doing what he did.
You're asking me a question. I'll give you an answer. It is illegal and it is against the law for the President of the United States to hire a personal attorney and people like Lev Parnas to do his dirty work, to dig up dirt on a political opponent for his own personal gain and withhold aid, which is what John Bolton is going to say in his book. It is absolutely against the law. It is not against the law to go through proper channels. Now, Brady, let me ask you another question because you called in last week and we had a bet on the air because you said Adam Schiff is going to be go to jail before the end of June, correct? And we had a verbal bet on the air?
Well, that's still on. We got a few months to go, right?
Okay, but let me ask you something else. Would you like to bet $1,000 on the air right now?
I'm pretty sure
For
that's
what?
illegal, Brian.
If you think that Schiff is going to jail, I will bet you $1,000 right now. But by the end of June, you are wrong, and Schiff will not go to jail. Hold on, this is between him and me.
I think you're actually committing a crime.
Fine,
right now.
so let's.
It sounds like a quid pro quo right now.
Yeah, well, I am giving you a quid pro quo to a right-wing hack Republican who never speaks the truth. Man up.
Krusty.
Man up. Is that a yes or no? Hold on a second.
Krusty, come
Yes
on now.
or
You're
no?
overboard.
Are you a coward, or would you like to place a $1,000 wager on the air? Yes or no? Yes or no?
$100. We'll keep it simple. 100. I don't want to
All
take
right.
all your money.
That's fair.
All right.
Okay, so our rule is Schiff by June 31st, if he is not behind bars.
No, he has to be charged with something. How's that?
Okay, fine. Either or. That's fine. Charged with something or behind bars. You have until June 31st. It is the easiest money I've ever made in my life. And guess what, Brady? When I get your $100, I'm donating it to the Democratic Party. What do you think about that?
Oh, if I win, I'm going to donate to the Short Bus Society.
Okay, you do that if you'd like. So basically, you're donating it to a society that you already belong to. I understand. Brady, thank you for calling in, and that's going to be the easiest $100 I've ever made in my life, and I'll take your wife out on a date.
I actually would not be surprised if Schiff is charged with something by then.
It's just unbelievable.
I would not be shocked.
All right, well, that's not going to
I
happen.
don't know what that would be.
All right, here's
I don't
what
know.
we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, Mike Lavinati, a guy who's come on this show dozens of times, in fact, every week for the last 6 months, We're going to play a little bit of audio from Michael Avenatti, and this was a phone call that he did not know was being recorded in regards to Nike. It is kind of telling and interesting, and we'll take your thoughts on this coming back. We'll hear from Michael Avenatti in his own words in a private conversation with Nike. Do you think he was really trying to extort Nike? We'll take your calls coming back to 702-257-5396. That Michael Avenatti audio coming up next. You're listening to The Vegas Take on the all-new 101.5 FM, 720 AM, KDAWN.